friends. Welcome to another episode of the 10 Laws Podcast with East Forest. I am Mr. Forrest. And this week, I have a great conversation with my dear sweetheart, Radha Wepner. We just got back from the Ramdas retreat, and we're actually talking about our whole tour situation over to Europe because there's always so many stories. And we like to remember and do it while it's fresh. And so that's exactly what we did. But before I do that, I just want to let you know that we just announced a date for November 7th in Los Angeles. I'm going to be playing at Pico Union Project, and Marieme's going to guest into the live set and do she's got an amazing voice. So if you're around LA or would like to come, the tickets are now on sale. This show will not be lie down. It'll be like kind of a traditional show, but which is great. I'm really excited to share this space with you. And it's in celebration for the release of Music for the Deck of the Titanic. That is my new studio record, which will be coming out that same week. So, yes, check it out, eastforest.org/tickets. And we've got a few other things announced up there, including the Esalen retreat that's coming up next week. Still some spots if you want to go to that. It's in early September, the 4th through the 8th. And then we just, of course, have our Esalen retreat in December. That is just Radha's and myself, our little retreat. And that is in the middle of December, in addition to a few other things up there. So again, eastforest.org/tour. And thank you so much to some new signups over on the council on Patreon. Patreon.com/eastforest is the place to check it out, where I get to share new songs before they come out, or demos that never get released, or anything else, including our monthly Zoom council for our council members. But I did want to say thank you so much to some folks who have signed up recently since August. Peter, Narada, Aviad, JD, Jamie, especially Jamie and Penelope, who did the new yearly function where you can sign up for an entire year. Thank you so much to both of you. And Peter, go check it out, patreon.com/eastforest. Thank you for supporting the podcast. Thank you for supporting the project in general, everyone over there and everyone who supports in any way. It's just a way to help keep this all sustainable so that I can keep doing things and having conversations and being in relationship with each other, listening and walking our walk together. A couple other things that need to be noted. At the end of this podcast, we talk about a tour that might be happening or not, and that I would let you know in the intro what's going on. So basically, we were unable to put the entire tour together, and right now we're just doing that LA date on November 7th. There will be some others, but we just haven't been able to announce when those will be, perhaps early next year, or we'll see when we can fit that stuff in. But I just wanted to clarify that. And at the Ramdas retreat, they live streamed my performance there, which had a lot of Ramdas words and music and improvisations, including a new Ramdas sample I was playing around with. But if you want to hear that performance, it's currently on my YouTube page. It's under the live section. And the whole, I think it ended up being exactly 1 hour, 8 minutes, of course, which to me was quite fitting. And you might enjoy that if you're into that kind of thing. And lastly, from my friends in Boise, Idaho, there are just 2 events I want to let you know about. Shane Moss, the comedian, I'm going to see him tonight for dinner. He's on tour, actually, more than just Boise. But he's got a really great tour. So he's going to be playing or performing tomorrow, August 30th, Wednesday, in Boise. And check out his entire tour. I'll put the link in the show notes. And then my friend Devin and the Duck Club are putting on something called Mindful. That's going to be an amazing sort of dance, electronic, thoughtful, mindful event. And Magic Sword's going to be doing a DJ set, as well as Devo and others. I'll put that in the show notes. Go to duckclub.com if you want to grab a ticket to that event that is going on. When is that going on? September 15th, Treefort Music Hall in Boise, Idaho. All right, let's get into this conversation with my sweetheart, Radha Wepner. This is on YouTube. But don't worry, this is an audio storybook for most people.
This is a much better angle. Look at that.
Okay. Whew. So we got back from touring in Europe, and there were always some good stories. And so I thought it might be fun to dive into some of those stories. And I mean, I'm thinking of a few in my head right now, but I guess it's good to go a little chronological.
Whatever you'd like.
Well, we went to Poland, Germany, Dublin, and London. God bless. And I just remember when we went to, you're jet lagged, of course, when you go. We went to Poland, and a couple days in, we were sleeping.
Well, even before you say that, we got there on a Thursday. Friday night was your show, and your performance was supposed to be at midnight till 2:30, and it got pushed. So you honestly didn't start till 2 in the morning.
This is at Dreamers Land.
Didn't start your set till about 2 in the morning. Needless to say, we got back to the hotel at 5 a.m. and the sun was rising.
Sun was coming up, and it had this taxi driver who would drive so fast that people were jumping out of the road.
It was real bad.
It was a little Toyota Corolla, but it had those little window blinds,
a little screen.
And I put them up so no one could see me in the car at the festival because I was embarrassed by how fast, as if I was responsible for the drivers.
It was reckless.
It was incredibly reckless. But anyway, he played great music.
And he was on time.
He was on time, and his tunes were fantastic. Anyway.
He got us back.
We were up very late, and we're jet lagged, and so we're like, all right, hitting the sack finally. We get to sleep at 5, 6, and, dead asleep. Dead asleep.
Oh, yeah.
And at 11 in the morning, all of a sudden there's not just your average fire alarm, modern. This hotel is brand new, very loud, blaring, screaming alarm. And I at least shot out of bed.
You probably thought, tell me if you thought, what did Radha do? Was your first thought blaming
Absolutely
me?
Not. Absolutely not.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, I didn't know where I was.
Okay.
I didn't know.
First thought was, where am I?
I didn't know who I was. But shot out of bed, this horrible sound. And then I think you obviously were awake. And we both realized, I think we have to
You said, what is that? I said, I think it's the fire alarm.
I think we have to leave this room.
And then we groggily got out of bed. I remember I put on 3 outfits. First, I think I was going to walk out the door naked. Then I was going to walk out the door in a robe. Then I was going to walk out the door in something else. And then finally it's no, you need to, what do you, it was just hard to compute even what to do.
Well, we had to get outside. That was a funny moment. But Dreamers Land was interesting because here we are in Eastern Europe. Neither of us had been to Poland before. And it's basically a consciousness hippie festival, but we're so used, for at least us, seeing that and being part of that in the States. And so it was at first, it was a little bit of a mashup. It's I know this sounds obvious, but we're wow, everyone's kind of on the consciousness, conchi vibe. But they're all Polish.
Well, it was unique in the way that it was alcohol-free. I don't think I've been to an alcohol-free festival.
Yeah.
Alcohol-free, and all the food was vegan and vegetarian.
Yeah.
It was another level of consciousness festival than I've been at. And everyone was so sweet. So lovely.
Yeah, and the rain was rolling through, and at least we lucked out, because when we were there, it didn't really rain much, but we'd heard there'd been some heavy rains before we got there.
The day before, yeah.
But, so, going backwards a bit, you're right that the set was pushed. Let me just paint the picture a bit. I'm supposed to play at midnight, which was the last thing that day.
It seemed ideal on paper.
Seemed good. I think I was originally told, there's going to be 10,000 people, and it's a rotating stage, so you just set up and they rotate. And I was like, this is crazy, really? It was more
the stage was round, but it didn't move.
Stage didn't move.
But it was a circle.
Yeah. And I think the entire festival was 2,000 or 3,000, maybe.
3 max.
Yeah. And so there definitely weren't that many in the tent. But regardless, I'm all right, it's a little different. That's fine. But I'm psyched to play. They got a piano. And the act before me, they're already behind. And then the act before me was way behind. And then they started doing encores and stuff, which is not typically a thing you do at festivals.
It's a big no-no.
We're on a schedule here. It's not your show. It's everyone's show.
Even when you're an opening act, you would never do an encore.
So it's pushing even later, and then there's a changeover, and it's also good form not to get on the stage till the other band's off the stage. And so we're kind of waiting, and I finally get on the stage, and we do the setup, and everything's fine, more or less. And I get to we did a sound check earlier in the afternoon, fine.
Mm-hmm.
I plug everything in, my system's working, but I hear like this really intense, like buzzing, pretty bad sound in my in-ears. And I can see it coming through the system. And I'm like, hey, there's this thing. And they radio the sound guy, and he's like, yeah, it's blah, blah, blah on these channels. And we're trying to diagnose what it is, and we can't figure it out. This goes on for 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's sitting there.
Quietly.
There's no house music.
No,
we're
quiet.
on stage.
They're right
and they're just
next
looking
to
at us.
And they'd already been waiting for like 2 hours for you to play.
And it's late, and we're losing people. They're just like, I gotta go to bed. I really wanted to see this, but I gotta go to bed. And I don't know if I can describe what that feeling is like, of like the intensity of the pressure of, look, you've practiced for this. You've flown across the Atlantic Ocean. You got there the day before. Your luggage has arrived. You're trying to prepare, blah, blah, blah. You finally get on stage, you set all the stuff up, you're just about to play, and there's an issue, and it's stopping you from playing. And there's a little crowd of people around you sort of just staring, being like...
trying to help, but
yeah,
not
but it's
able
not what
to
you
help.
can do. They're like, maybe, have you tried turning it on and off? Or have you tried... You're like, yeah. I mean, we got out backup gear, plugged it in, swapped cables, the whole bit. It was a moment. It was a moment. And I actually got to the point where I was like... I think I told the organizer who was on stage, I said, I'm very sorry, but I think it's a no-go. It's a no-go.
Because you couldn't play through the sound to have everybody hear this like
it would have been
screeching
intense.
sound that you couldn't get rid of.
So I'm just like, when those moments happen, well, obviously we figured a solution. At one point, the solution was it had something to do with their electrical system, which was on this big generator. And honestly, electrical grounding issues, especially in situations like that, I have no idea what's going on. But I managed to power something else through a different electrical circuit, and that seemed to fix the problem. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to do it. And I just told the audience, give me 2 minutes, and I just want to collect myself, and then we'll start. And I walked back stage, and I walked outside. It's dark, and I walked out into the grass by the trees. There's nobody back there. And I remember just saying, I actually said, like, thank you, Maharaji, for all of this is Maharaji in drag. And I'd taken it down a notch. And whatever reason there is for this, I'm grateful that I will be able to perform. But I trust that maybe now I will perform less time. Maybe that's good. Maybe it needed to be later. I don't know. But I'm like, also, here it is. Thank you.
And you performed. And it was
and
gorgeous.
I went back.
And then as soon as you got on stage and started performing, I was told by the organizer, all right, he's got to be done by 3. Now he's got a heart out. And I'm like,
I was the only one with a heart out. Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
I know.
That was like a cosmic joke too.
I know. And then I remember playing, and I looked at my watch, and I was like, it's going to go over 3, about like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And usually I'm really good about being done when they tell me to be done. But I also thought, like, I was a little bit just so delirious and a little just sort of pissed. Maybe I was like, fuck it, I'm going to go over 5-10 minutes. Like, I want to play this last song. And so I did. I think they were bugging out a bit.
A little bit. Got through it all. And the next day you gave a talk.
So anyway, that's what led up to the fire alarm.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like, we went from that to the
It was
fire
one of our
alarm.
latest nights. We're usually...
Yeah.
I'm going to...
Uh-oh. Hit the mute button.
Oh my gosh. Excuse me.
Yeah.
We're usually in bed pretty early.
Yeah. Everything's just so topsy-turvy, right? It's like, now we've just got back, and like we go to bed, we want to go to bed at like 7 p.m. and you wake up at 3 a.m. every night, and you're just trying to like, okay, body, we got to slowly move ourselves in a different direction.
That's been happening.
Yeah.
But your talk, I thought, went really well.
The next day, it was a little talk. Your yoga class was the next day?
On Sunday morning.
We ended up being there a long time because of like performance, talk, your yoga class and then having to depart and it being 4 nights or something, which is unusual. The talk, I think I was so focused on the performance, I didn't think about this talk. And I remember rolling into it being like, wait a minute, what is this going to be? And they had, so it was a festival, it's outdoors, and they had a booth with interpreters on a microphone, and people could have headsets to have it interpreted into Polish. And I just thought
it's kind of like a toll booth. Imagine a toll booth with 2 people in it next to each other.
Yeah,
and
2.
And they had silent disco headsets. And so if you spoke Polish, they would give you a silent disco headset that one of the interpreters is feeding you the Polish from your translation, which is so cool. I've never seen that. It's very innovative.
Honestly, I was blown away because, of all the things you don't expect to see at a festival, it was like boothed interpreters like the UN on those little, like, those microphones that are on a flexible, like, it looked like something out of the 70s,
Yeah, it did. It probably was from the 70s.
I've never had that before. And that was cool.
Yes.
And we did a little talk, and it was great to meet a few people there. And the whole festival is vegetarian, too.
Yes.
And alcohol-free.
Yeah, I said that.
Oh. And then you did your yoga class the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
People enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm. It was a little tough because the ground was soggy, but...
Big rain overnight.
We got through it. I mean, you kind of expect that kind of thing in those environments. You just roll with it all. It was good. I love teaching. I love sharing in those situations.
And then you said we had to do like one thing at the festival or one workshop. And
I want to
like,
give my full attention to one thing. Because Krishna at these events is a skimmer. He skims across the surface. He'll drop in.
Or just in and out.
Yeah, in and out. But never like really like turns his full attention over to something else.
Yep.
For more than a few minutes. So I said, I'm going to do that. I'd like for you to join me. And I picked out this thing that was like a partner massage. That sounds fun, right?
On paper, I'm like,
partner
that's
massage.
Not so bad.
Let's go do the partner massage.
Yeah.
And it turned out that the experience was all led in Polish, which was fine because it's, you can follow along. There was an interpreter.
It was funny a little bit because anyway, what kind of massage was it, Radha?
It was a massage where, we came together, obviously partnered, but most people, I think, partnered with somebody that they didn't know on the spot.
Right.
And the demonstration that we observed was the woman that was leading it. I think it was like probably a student of hers that she was practicing on, but pulled her pants down to like below the hip bones, like right above, like
there were pubic hair showing.
Yeah. And then she had just like a sports bra on, and it was an abdominal massage.
Right.
And so you were coached through breathing in and out through your mouth, and then like this deep pressure. They called them pillows. Like find a pillow, like a hard spot in somebody's belly, stomach cavity, and massage it out. And so I said to Krishna, you want to go first? Do you want to do this to me, or you want me to do this to you?
And they went around and passed out oil.
Oh, yeah, oil too. So we all got like a handful of oil. And so he was the recipient, and I think you hated it.
Well, there were moments, but it was long. I think it was 45 minutes,
of
maybe.
Me giving the massage to
I don't
you.
know if anyone out there has had an abdominal massage when you've gone to a professional. And they're like, we're going to drain your liver or things like that. It's unusual to massage the abdomen because it's such a sensitive place and it's all your organs are right there. And in Chinese medicine, my experience has been that's sort of like a very specific thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't last that long because it's intense. Mm-hmm. This was more like, hey, everybody, find a buddy. We're going to give you some oil. Just dig in there for a long time, and nobody knows what they're doing. They're just like winging it. She actually said, what phrase did she say?
Fake it till you make it.
She actually said, fake it till you make it.
That was the accent too.
And I'm thinking, this can't be safe. Let alone, there's no way, you could get away with this in the average situations.
I was happy that twice different assistants came around and they took over for me, and they gave you the massage, remember?
For like a minute, yeah.
Oh, maybe a little bit longer, but I was grateful for that, for you to...
It was so intense. It was so, and the couple next to us was like having an orgasm.
It was two women, young women next to us, and they got really into it.
It was wild. It was wild. All I know is after that, I felt ill, and I really took it. Really shook me. It changed my chi. My entire system was like rearranged. And we had to, I was like, I can't.
Well, eventually we
eat
switched
anything.
after you said like 45 minutes, and you did the massage to me for a total of maybe 5, and then you were like,
"That's not true.
Let's get out of here."
It was a long time. The sun came out. We were both getting sunburned.
Okay,
and it was more than 5 minutes.
10 minutes. It wasn't that long, and you didn't feel well.
I did not. After my deep gorging in my stomach. It just blew my mind that I don't know. Someone's running a workshop where they're just like, we're going to do something physically adventurous, and everyone's never done this.
Pretty intimate.
Very intimate. Very intimate.
And you're just we're all just in the grass.
And encouraging people to essentially just like go deeper, breathe more, find the pain, and just push through it.
With somebody you don't know.
Like, what if that's it could be like my pancreas or something. I didn't know what I was doing. That was a wild experience. With that kind of, was there anything else interesting? I mean, we had some beautiful conversations. It was in this like rolling hills, kind of flat, sort of farmy. There was a creek river running through it.
On the edge of their national forest.
Yeah, it was cool. And then we got to spend a night in Warsaw, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
Great. We had sort of a day off, got there midday and had that night there. And we went to a Chopin concert, which turns out it's pretty touristy, but turns out was amazing.
It was really
there was a serious
impressive
concert pianist playing an hour of Chopin, which I like Chopin. I guess I always assumed Chopin was more in the camp of like Debussy or more like spacious. And my goodness, this was like Shostakovich speed, complexity. It was in unbelievably wild piano playing, but a great player.
I was really impressed.
Small little room.
Yeah, maybe like 60 people.
It was really beautiful.
Chopin was born outside of Warsaw, so they're very proud of that.
Oh my God. The airport's the Chopin airport. Every street is statues everywhere. Mm-hmm. And that's so cool to me that the city praises a musician. I love that. So cool.
He's a worldwide figure.
Well, he's badass. Once I heard all that music, I was like, damn, it's really amazing. It was like a little, in the old part of the city, it was like a little room with these little wooden chairs and a little garden. Had the windows open.
Half art gallery.
It was
They
cool.
took a break and gave us all like thimble-sized cups of mead.
Yeah.
Halfway through.
Like a cup of wine comes with your show. And I was like, it was like less than a Dixie cup.
Yeah, maybe like 0.5 ounce.
Yeah. So it was funny. I enjoyed that. What else did you enjoy in Warsaw?
The Dollhouse Museum.
Oh, that was odd. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was weird.
It said toy museum, and little known fact is I was a toy collector for a long time and still slightly
As most
am.
children are. They call themselves toy collectors.
I keep mine in my box.
Oh.
But anyways, the Dollhouse Museum was like the history of dollhouses. So lots of creepy, strange figurines throughout the ages.
Yeah. They had a dollhouse that had like an operation table with like little doll guts coming out of it and a nun over it.
Yep. There was one with like the child in like one of those like metal x-ray boxes. This is an old one.
Yeah, it was strange stuff. I mean, I guess that was a big thing back then if you had a fancy dollhouse. But
all the way to like play school plastic ones, modern.
Yeah.
And we had a great dinner, and then we woke up early to go.
Great dinner.
Great dinner.
Great dinner.
I think it was called Dispensia.
It was so fun. And
recommendation
just
from a filmmaker we ran into.
Yeah. Yeah, and then what?
I think that's...
We had a great lunch, too, where you had hot beer.
Yeah, I ordered the hot beer.
Tasted like the holidays. It was like clove and cinnamon, and they put some juice in it.
Blueberry.
And beer.
Mm-hmm.
Comes in a big beer stein, but it's hot. Mm-hmm. It's actually quite good.
You loved it.
If you see hot beer on the menu, you got to try that. We had some pelmeni or pierogi. What are they?
Pierogies.
Pierogi.
Tell them your pierogi story.
What is the pierogi story?
When we got picked up at the airport, you asked the driver that was taking us to the festival when does Parangi play?
Because our buddy Parangi was playing the festival, and I was just like, "Oh, is he here? Did you pick him up?" And the guy said,
"Pierogies."
Yes, there is great pierogies here. The pierogies are here.
The pierogies are really good. I
left it at that. I was like, okay, sounds good. Or I was like, when does he go on? And he's like, oh, you get the pierogies anytime. Yes, he's here. Or they are here. Many pierogies are here. Like, okay.
And then we went to Germany for my friend Lydia and Jake's wedding. Lydia's family is from a small town, Gudenthal, outside of Frankfurt.
Oh, Gudenthal.
And we got to Frankfurt and realized we needed to rent a car last minute to get to our destination.
Yep.
Radha had a meltdown, which doesn't happen that often. Hardly ever.
I think you were just tired. Well, I know you were just tired. And you were just thinking, we're going to miss essentially, we're only going to one. Well,
we were there for a very short period of time.
Not much. You thought we'd miss the whole evening things. And we almost did. But because you were crying in the corner, the guy at the rental car desk, his boss was a real jerk and was like, your car is not for an hour, so you have to go sit in a chair and wait for it.
Yeah, it was this thing where we ordered the car, but we had to wait
on the spot. Ordered it.
We're like, well, it's 6:00 now. You have to wait till 7 to pick it up because that's the time. So go sit in the chair till 7:00. So we were sitting in the chair till 7:00.
You were crying, and I'm like rubbing your shoulders, and then eventually that guy left, and the other guy waves me over, and he's like, let's get this car for you, and he gave you 2 dum-dums. After it's just being like, maybe
lollipops.
This, as if we were like children. Here you go.
It was very sweet of him.
And then we hit the Autobahn in this little tiny. He said, "What kind of car do you?" I said, "Any car, any car." And he gave us the cheapest, smallest car. Remember when we came to? If anyone's been in the Frankfurt airport car rental situation, it's like a massive, maybe I don't even know, 12 stories deep of just endless cars. You know, you're like subsection 2B, stall 268 kind of thing. Mm-hmm. We find the car, and I'm like, oh, God, I don't even know if our stuff's going to fit in this car. Like all the cases. It did. We fit it in, barely.
Yeah, and you got us there.
Hit the Autobahn, and we were at that rehearsal dinner in like less than an hour, maybe an hour. Mm-hmm. And it was delicious.
It worked out perfectly. Beautiful wedding.
Beautiful weather the next day, a little rain, a little sun. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Countryside, wine country, the Rhineland. That was nice, a little break.
We tried to go to Banya, but it was closed. Everything's closed in August. The hot springs close in August.
All of Europe closes in August. It's a hard time to do shows.
When we went to where the hot springs were supposed to be, though, there was a really interesting setup where they're on the side of the building, kind of like courtyard park with a fountain in the middle that was misting, like a mist sprayer, and people were sitting in plastic lawn chairs around the mist sprayer.
Yeah.
It's like saline water, like salt water that they all sit there and get misted.
It wasn't even that hot.
You mean the day?
Yeah.
The temperature?
Yeah.
I think 75. It's something like therapeutic about the salt water.
Right on. Yeah, I was hoping I really wanted to take you to the classic German soaking experience that's in every town, but next time.
Yeah, because part of it is they're like kind of militant about not wearing any clothing.
Yeah, they get very serious about it. You cannot wear any clothes. And you're like, I got you, Roger. And they're like, do not wear any bathing suit. I'm like, okay, I will not. So totally nude is the way it is, as it should be. So we had a good time there, and we went back to the airport. And by the way, every time, typically in the U.S., airport RTSA, it's not great, but it's also like we kind of know what to expect. And I have a lot of electronics, shall we say, in my carry-on. That's all my carry-on is. It's like the
cables,
fragile electronics.
Wires.
It looks like a nightmare going through the X-ray machine. It's just packed in there. Anyway, in Europe, there's no TSA pre or anything like that for us. And so sometimes I have to use eight trays to spread it all out. And it's a bit of a scene. So every time we go to the airport, it's like doing this again and again and again. And had to just get zen about it. I'd be like, it's fine. We just get there early. And whatever they say, in whatever language, I just nod my head, say, no problem. Do it again.
No issues. Everyone was really good.
I just pulled it all out.
Yeah.
No clothes. So we went to Dublin and we met up with Peter.
Yeah.
Peter Broderick. And we did some rehearsals. Rehearsals for our show. So we went right to the rehearsal Camden Studios, and Peter was already there and set up and started rehearsing. And that was awesome. I was definitely nervous because I'm like, we have to put together basically an entirely new show, and we have, day and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Dublin's so awesome, and it's great to be there again. Although our hotel is a little rough. I was up all night, like not 1 minute of sleep.
That's because we were in, like, I learned a pro tip, guys. Pro tip for when you're traveling, you want to get like the balcony suite that overlooks the city. Don't ever do that. Get the interior.
Quieter.
Interior of the hotel room.
Especially if it's a weekend in Dublin. Let me tell you something. People drink.
It was every...
They say what they want at a volume of any way they want. At any time of that, it could be 4 a.m. So it's like someone is right below your window and be like, hey,
screaming.
Hey! No!
It was bad.
Lassie.
But besides that, I wanted to go back to the rehearsal for you and Peter. Because when we got to that rehearsal studio, the two of you set up your gear and then just started kind of going through the songs on Burren together.
Just trying to figure out what we could play. And
it was so great. It was
God,
so great.
I love playing with him.
So great to hear the music again, but these new versions of it. Man, that was a treat for me.
Me too. There was this old piano too that was really basically unusable. So I was trying to play that thing, but mostly using the keyboards and all of our looping things and pedals and percussion. It was cool. And then the next day, basically, we came back and just rehearsed all day. Worked out a set. And then that night, what did we do that night? Probably just had dinner.
You got done, and
you were out enjoying things, I think, the second day.
Yeah, I went to a yoga class at this great studio called The Space Between, and then I went to the National Gallery, and then I went to... Is that when I went to the Book of Kells? Yeah, that was like a letdown of a museum. Really expensive and not that great. But it seemed good on paper. And then we met up. And we must have just had dinner or something like that.
Yeah. And the show was the next day, and it was in this theater that had seats.
Oh, that's when you and I went to dinner at the place Peter recommended with the Scottish egg.
Yeah. Has anyone out there had a Scottish egg? They take an egg, they wrap it in sausage.
Hard-boiled egg.
Fry it.
Yeah.
And then that is enjoyed. It's surprisingly bland for something so terrible for you. Drank plenty of Guinness and all that jazz. But the show is really great. I remember the sound check being pretty frustrating. We were just it was one of those things where like the venue is having some issues again. But we were just trying to be patient. It was like an hour and a half of that. But eventually, we got through our sound check, and the audience was just so giving and amazing. As that's my experience, at least, with Dublin audiences. It's just been nothing but enthusiasm, attention, joy, camaraderie.
They're ecstatic.
It was a great show. I can't tell you how wonderful it was to be playing a show, and then you kind of look over and you've got someone else you're playing with, and what they're doing is like, oh man, that sounds great. Like I'm doing something and he's playing this like violin loop thing over it, thinking, holy cow, I can't do that. I don't play violin.
How many things happened during the set that were unexpected to you?
Oh, lots, because we basically just had a shape. So it'd be like, for instance, okay, we're going to play Reunited. We're going to start with that. And we rehearse roughly what that would be like. And then it's like, okay, but let's be open to wherever it wants to go, or if someone wants to change it, you can. And then we're going to improvise after it's quote unquote done. So it was very open. Or it'd be like, after that, we're going to do an improv that's going to be an E flat, something like that. And we would rehearse that, but then we purposely were like, let's not try to recreate too much the improvs because that can be a bit of a trap. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it was maybe 50-50 in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But the little PA that we had in the rehearsal room was a real piece of crap. So it was like, you know, completely different than what it would sound like in a venue with subwoofers and all the stuff. But I thought it was really special set. So I remember feeling pretty high after that.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't sleep at all because of the yelling and the adrenaline and the jet lag. And it was
the Indian food.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes we forget. I don't like to eat before shows, and I don't think Peter did either. And then next thing you know, by the time you're packed up and out of there, it's midnight and everything's closed. It's one of those situations. So you're looking around for something to eat, and his lady, Etna, found this Indian place not too far. And I'll say, it didn't look nice. The food was amazing.
It was fantastic.
But we asked for it to be mild, and it was really spicy.
Yes.
And I ate it anyway because it was so good. But we're all like, just holy cow, this is spicy. It's 1 a.m. or something. The guy comes back and I said, sir, I thought we discussed this being mild. And he says, yeah. And I said, okay, let me ask you a question. From 0 to 10, what would this be? He said a 4. I said, well, okay, I would consider mild to be in the 1 to 2, maybe 3. And he's like, well, you know, I think his opinion was like, well, that's not very good. You know, like, you know, it's got to be a 4 at least.
It was tasty.
But it kept me up, and it was painful. And then all the yelling and the blah, blah, blah. So that was a tough night because the next day we were right back to the airport.
Flying to London, which we were a bit nervous about because if we missed our connection, or there was no connection, it was direct flight.
Anything went awry.
If it was delayed, if the flight was delayed, and all of our flights thus far had been delayed somewhat, if it was delayed at all, you would have missed your show that night.
Or baggage. Yeah.
If there were any issue, you would have missed it.
Yeah, and Pelmani, Pirangi had just come on that same flight 2 days before, and he said something like 75 of the passengers' bags were not on the flight.
95 pieces of luggage were lost.
Some insane amount of they're just like, your bags aren't here, because he didn't have all of his gear.
When he flew from London to Warsaw for Dreamersland, where he was too, he had 10 pieces of luggage and 5 didn't arrive.
Yeah, so we're thinking we're doing the same flight.
And Yaima, the artist, didn't get on their flight. They were denied.
They overbooked, and they just didn't give them a seat.
Yes.
Even though they had a ticket on that same flight.
Yes.
So we're like, this is not great.
It's somewhat risky.
British Airways.
But ours was fine.
It was perfectly fine. On time, so we were very fortunate.
Went straight to the venue again.
Straight to the sound check. And this show, I think it's safe to say, and I want to talk about this a little bit, was very difficult.
The creation of the show.
Everything about leading up to this show was a pain in the ass for us. Very not artist friendly.
No.
I mean, this thing was like, we booked it, of course, a long time ago. And then the promoter essentially decided to, not pay us a deposit, even though we're supposed to have one, which is
part of the
pretty
guarantee.
Standard. Yeah. And also when you're, booking flights overseas, you're kind of like, that's your one way of being like, they have some kind of skin in the game.
Well, they said after a month of releasing it, like promoting it, advertising it, that they wanted to cancel. And that was back in, I think they told us that right when we were leaving for Iceland in early June. And we were said, no, we don't want to cancel this show. Like, give us,
I think it was
have
over
a couple months.
2 months, 2.5. We're like, well, give it some time to sell. And it's August. Maybe people don't know what they're doing. Just chill.
So that created a back and forth for the entire time about it.
Entire time. Until like a week before, it kept being like, maybe we'll cancel it, they would say.
Yes.
Not like, here's a particular metric you have to hit, or after such and such date, we won't. It was always just like, if we feel like it, we'll cancel
we would
this.
be told this show's going to be canceled. And I would say, wait. And they'd say, well, let's give it till Monday.
Right. And
over and over and over
that
again.
happened too. I think one time I actually drafted an entire apology email.
Yes.
A second time I actually recorded a video being like, because we were like, it's canceled. They said it's canceled.
Yeah.
So I said, okay. And we went through the whole emotional process and team process of like planning, like, all right, this really sucks. But now let's just triage. Here's a video. Here's how we're going to message it. Here's what we're going to do. And then they'd be like, well, we're going to give it another week.
Let's wait till Monday.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a nightmare.
I've never had that kind of run around back and forth headache type of experience.
And Peter's involved. I felt terrible. And it was very difficult for us to message to our own community because we're like, should we promote it more or not?
Yeah,
and then
it's a
we're kind of halfway
catch-22.
promoting it.
Because you don't want to convince people to come to a show that then it's going to be canceled.
And I felt like they weren't promoting it, which obviously it's funny. The promoter you think should be promoting the show.
Anyways, we got it across the finish line.
But there's more. We were flying there. We were flying there, and someone told us, hey, your show's sold out. And I'm like, well, it's definitely not sold out. I go online, and the tickets were closed. They'd been closed for 2 days. So the show's Sunday, and as of Friday, they just decided to stop selling tickets. Like the website was broken.
Even though, in your favor, you had a boon where it was featured in the Sun as one of the best things to do that
But when
weekend.
it was featured in the Sun, you couldn't buy a ticket. So then and no one's getting back to us too.
And then
Even though, hey, we sell more tickets, you sell more tickets. That's the whole point of this. That's how they make their money. It was almost like they wanted it not to happen. We got that message. Like for some reason they want us to back out of this, and we kept pushing through. And this is the truth. We kept pushing through for our community, for our fans in London.
Yeah.
We were like, we don't want to cancel this. We don't want to cancel it for them. Even we knew we weren't going to make any money. Even if we're going to lose money in the show, but we're doing it because we want to do this show. And we did want to do it. And Peter and I were like, well, we did it. And the strangest thing is, when we showed up there, the actual crew doing the show, amazing.
Yeah, they were great.
Like sound was fantastic. Everything
Great
was
venue
the venue was
manager.
great, except for the barricades. And we had a great show, and it was a great venue. And there were actually things that happened that were good, like because we weren't selling the tickets they wanted. They said we're going to get rid of all the seats. And at first, I'm thinking, well, this is a problem because people are buying a seat and then there's no seat. But we're like, it's fine. Just let people know so they can bring what they want to be comfortable, like a yoga mat or something, which I'm not sure they ever did. I don't know. We tried, but
They stopped answering my questions after a while. And one of them was, would you let the guests know that they can
Just
bring
let 'em
things
know,
to be
that's all.
comfortable in the grounds? But there were still seats in the balcony. It ended up feeling like a really nice room with
Yeah.
everybody down on the floor, sitting or lying down, and then the seats in the balcony.
yeah.
And we had a lot of friends on the guest list. Thanks to Future Sound for helping to promote, and the London Psychedelic Society for helping to promote.
MC Yogi and Amanda were there,
Yeah.
10,000 Buddhas, which was like a total wonderful surprise because they don't live in London. Had a great show. I had
Really
a blast
beautiful.
playing with Peter. And great sound.
You want to talk about how it ended?
Sure, yeah. So the night before, there's a song on Burn called Landscape that you read one of Peter's poems that he wrote for the
The
record.
landscape is always changing.
That's right. We didn't play it in the set because we couldn't do it in a way that we liked, or we didn't want to use like tracks and stuff. So anyway, at the last minute, Peter was just like wanted to include this poem, and I think I suggested, well, in Dublin, what if you read it as part of the encore? And he did. And I remember while he was doing it, I started putting music under it, and that turned into our encore, and it was really fun. So we thought, let's do that again in London. And we got to the encore, or people are clapping. We walk off stage, and Peter says to me, oh, I forgot the poem and all of my notes. I haven't had a set list or all my notes this whole show, which I didn't know. He says, let me go get it.
It was in the dressing room.
Which is a bit of a journey, maybe a minute or two. I thought, okay, it's going to be several minutes until he's back. And, we're high on adrenaline and we're side stage. I said something like, I'll go stall or something. So I walk back on stage, and first I thought I'd just talk, but I thought in my head, this is going to be a while. And I just dropped in a little bit of Ram Dass in the last song, a little bit. And I was like, you know what? I bet it'd be cool for people if we just did a little more Ram Dass. So I thought I'd play Please Pass the Bliss, which is very short. And by the time I'm done, then Peter will come on and we'll do our ending. Mm-hmm. And I said to the audience,
Peter will be right back. He went to go get his poem.
Right. And anyway, I started playing, and then halfway through the song, Peter did get back, but my back was to him. He came up and started joining the song, which was super cool. And then I got all excited musically, and we were just jamming, and then that went into a jam. And now I'm just in like improv land. And we jammed for a while, which is our encore, and I completely forgot about the poem.
Did you literally like forget that it...
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Because now I'm just like in show mode of like, where's the show? Okay, now we're cresting this energy, and now this would most definitely be the end of the show, and it'd be perfect.
Yes.
And you say thank you.
Yep.
We took a bow, and I'm like, what a great show. And Peter's all discombobulated. I was like, what's wrong? And he's like, I'm just really thrown after the way that ended. And I'm just like, but it ended awesome. And I didn't even know that I had forgotten the poem. And I felt really bad. I think if he hadn't have forgotten it in the first place, bringing it on stage, we would have done it.
Of course you would have.
And so it's sort of like we both forgot in a sense, but I take responsibility for just getting in the flow there. I'm also not used to playing with other people. I'm used to, in my mind, making those internal decisions about, now you should do this, what makes the show. Mm-hmm. That's a very practiced muscle as opposed to thinking about other performers on stage. And so that was a bummer to end that way, but I hope he didn't, let that one thing sour.
Well, he got into a whole story that you just decided to dominate and take it all over.
Yeah, that's rough because that wasn't at all what I was doing. I was actually like on the spot there trying to think, what do I do? What do I do for the next few minutes? And I ended up making a decision that led to some other things that ended up being an error.
Well, audience-wise, from my point of view, it was really beautiful, and it did make sense, and it did feel really good. And then you were just kind of left curious, like, what about the poem?
And it's a great poem.
Well, then I thought he must have not been able to find it, is the conclusion you naturally get to. Peter?
I know. For him and I, it's a bigger deal than I'm sure the audience would have loved to hear it. And it's a nice, switch of energy, too, like just having a spoken word poem amidst all the music. Mm-hmm. And lyrics. So
when you have Radha there, why don't you have Radha read the poem?
Well, it's Peter's poem, first off, so that's up to him. But you mean like in the song?
Yeah. We
didn't do the song at all, not because of the poem part. There's a beat in that's really kind of key to the whole psychedelic jam, and we couldn't really replicate it without using electronics in a way that we didn't want to do.
Huh.
Essentially, it was more his decision.
Yeah.
And we didn't have a lot of time, so it was more just like we had to pick and choose. And we were like, that was one of the ones we were like, let's not. And we're like, I was up for doing it.
But then he still wanted to do it, a form of it.
He wanted the words somewhere in the set, and I thought they didn't work just kind of thrown into the set. So that was my suggestion of like, maybe they have their moment.
Yeah, I think that would only work if the whole audience was very familiar with the whole album. Sure. They would know where it was coming from.
Look, to give us both credit, we both were taking a lot of risks.
Yeah.
And the whole thing was a lot of creative risks. And sometimes nobody bats 1,000. And if I want to stay positive, I'm just proud that we did take risks. And sometimes it went a little sideways, but sometimes we found ourselves in territory that was completely virgin and expansive and new for each of us. And that's what I'm proud of.
You should be.
So I can't wait to do it again with him. And I would love to just do more. I love our collaborative weaving.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. You fit together so well.
I had a moment when we were setting up, and it's this beautiful hall, and setting up the piano, all the stuff, and sound checking, and just remembering, like, I don't even know how many years ago it was when I was a fan of his, and then I can't believe I'm playing a show with him in London or Dublin, and we had just done one, and it was just a really beautiful moment for me internally. But we are playing in Japan in end of September. I can't believe we're getting back on a plane to go that far, but
a festival called Each Story.
Yeah, and we're playing in Tokyo.
Yes.
And I'm maybe playing one other small show somewhere else, TBD. We just need the visa to come through.
Come on, visa.
Yeah. That was London. We did not have spicy food that night.
No, I got you food pre-show. I said, hey, guys.
And I just kept it for after. It was perfect.
Let's do this before. Come on.
We pro'd it up. You pro'd it up.
Yeah, I made you get food. And I think it was a smart move.
It's great.
The next day...
I Japanese curry, by the way. Nobody cares.
You love a good chicken katsu. That's your fave.
I don't know a lot of Japanese like curry katsus in the States. Do you see that a lot? It's definitely over there a lot.
Curry katsu?
Yeah. Like a curry
you
Japanese.
Would know. You're the katsu guy.
Well, it was pretty good.
But you started to then work with your editor, Rachel. So of course we've been talking about the film we're working on, Music for Mushrooms. We've been working on this film for a while, documentary. And the editor we're working with, Rachel, lives in London, which makes it a little more difficult to work because time zones and someone's far. And typically at one point in the stage, you would get together and work. But I always thought, well, maybe we'll just do it remotely or virtually. But we actually kept some time. We're like, since we're going to be there, it seems like we should stick around for a few days and work. And it was the right timing in the doc because we've been in post for like, I don't know, a month or two. And so it was really great. Really great. She's wonderful and very skilled and talented. And we got a lot done. But I was a little cooped up. Like, it was hard, like, after all those shows and travel. And it's beautiful, like, London weather is, like, in the 70s and partly sunny and cloudy. And everyone's just out in London. But I'm, like, in this hotel room all day with her. We did go out for dinner, and you were having adventures out in London. Having, like, I think you said one of the days you did, like, the best day of your life. You and Amanda. Which pissed you off.
I was jealous. I was happy for you, but I was grumpy because I was, like, so tired and burnt out from all that. Just, you finally got through the performances, which is a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Especially that London one, thinking it wasn't going to happen, and it finally did. But I had some lovely walks with you in London. We were mostly out in Shoreditch, and there's a lot of cool, like, murals. It's very gentrified, but there's some cool art.
Really good meals.
Great food.
Dim Shum, that Indian dinner we had with Nick and Amanda and Rachel and her partner.
That was the spot.
And the DJ Scott guy. And then Amanda from 10,000 Buddhas, we ended up inadvertently last minute going to the British Museum.
Yeah.
And she thought that it was going to be like British art. And it's actually...
No, it's everything they've stolen from around the world.
All of the world's treasures.
Yeah.
Under one roof. And it was really incredible.
Yeah.
And also strange.
Huge, right?
Oh, I mean, vast.
Is it kind of like the Smithsonian, but world stuff?
Yes.
Yeah. It's
yeah.
very, very
all
big.
divided into like continents.
Uh-huh.
And
but what was the other thing you went to, though?
Well, then we had a really great Italian lunch.
Everyone's like, why are you telling us every meal you had?
Well, because the food was so good. And then she and I went to Treadwell's bookstore, which is like an occult, witchy bookstore. And I got more books than you're happy with, but ones that I'm very happy with.
I don't like when we buy books when we travel because they're heavy.
But we had a great day and then met you for lunch. And then I went to the Tate Modern to see what Amanda suggested. It was an artist that she has loved for a while, Hilda af Klint, who was like an anthroposophist from the...
Is KLIMPFT or...
You're thinking of Gustav Klimt.
Oh.
This is AF space KLINT.
Okay.
Clint. Hilda Aft Clint. So she was an artist from the turn of the century and like part of Rudolf Steiner's crew and Madame Blatsby's crew.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know she was a Steiner acolyte.
Yeah, both.
Oh, interesting.
And her paintings, the show was these channelings that she got of these teachings. She said she talked to angels, kind of like one was called the Tree of Life, and then like evolutionary processes, and it was really mind blowing.
Amanda said it was the best exhibit she's ever seen in her life, and she's a painter.
Yeah, she knows art.
That's quite the endorsement.
I went there with Peter. Peter
Yeah.
and I went there together.
So would you say scale of 0 to 10, how spicy was it? Spice being good.
Well, it was partnered with Piet
Mondrian.
Mondrian.
Yeah, Mondrian.
Mondrian.
Yeah, I don't know how to say it.
I don't know either. But the two of them together were really, really incredible side by side. Just the juxtaposition too. But so getting to walk through that with Peter was really, really lovely and share that experience with him. And then he went back. His friends were having a baby that he was there staying with. And Rose, she did end up having her baby. Happy B-Day to Rose, this baby. But then I left that and saw this huge building that kind of looked like the Capitol building in the distance, and was just walking towards it.
In London,
and walked around front, and I realized it was St. Paul's Cathedral, and walked in. And as soon as I walked in, it was like 4:53, and at 5:00 they started a whole hour-long Church of England service with their whole choir, the whole thing, up and down, all the like prayers and the amens and
they said amen
lots of times.
the greatest hits of religion were
in
covered.
Communion, I had the
Trinity,
blood of Christ and the body of Christ. I was raised Roman Catholic, so there's subtle differences in the way that the service goes, but a lot of similarities.
Yeah, just today you informed me that you drank out of a cup that a few thousand people lined up.
There weren't a few
off
thousand
the street.
people there.
If there was one, I'd be like, you should get your own cup. People are getting COVID right now again.
It was amazing. The choir was like the choir of Nottingham or something like that.
It sounds amazing. The reverb you said was incredible.
The reverb, they would get done singing, it would echo for like 10, 12 seconds just through this huge cathedral that was built in the 1400s. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's quite the experience.
It was incredible.
It's so cool to like essentially stumble into these things like spontaneously.
Yeah, and it was all dedicated to the Blessed Virgin Mary. So it was all to the feminine too.
Yeah.
Which was, and after coming out of Hilda's show into that, it was just really special for me.
I'm really happy that happened for you.
And then we went to the jazz club.
Do you remember the name of the artist we saw?
His name was Burl?
Bruno Barrel.
Bruno Barrel.
Yeah, Brazilian, singing in Portuguese, and his set was solo. Just think like kind of Gilberto, I have to say. It's sort of like that, Gilberto type songs. Very soft and beautiful with sort of jazz chords.
But kind of like Buena Vista Social Club-ish vibes, for those of you that don't know Gilberto.
Yeah, and a small jazz club with 2 tiers, so it was like wrap around, very intimate. It's cool. It's a cool vibe.
The music was incredible.
The ladies love it.
Very impressed. I thought it was going to be more like percussive and upbeat because we knew we were going to Brazilian jazz.
Oh, I thought it was going to be like full on, grooving, dancing, Afro, lo-fi, Brazilian style.
And it was just one guy sitting on a stool playing guitar.
Very intimate.
Singing. And it was like, for me, it felt like you're on the dance floor with like a new lover, and you're just like slowly.
Yeah, you and Amanda were saying things like, I wish he could sing me to sleep every night.
It was really good.
Well, you met him, and his producer, who's like 23.
Batata Boy.
And bought his vinyl, and we listened to it today, and it's actually more produced out. And I was really enjoying, they're like these lo-fi productions, really cool vibes on the record.
Highly recommended. Highly. Maybe put his Spotify notes? In the show notes. Okay. It was so good.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was awesome. and did another day with Rachel, and then we had to hit the road and go all the way back home. Just feeling really grateful that we could do these things. It is really amazing to be able to do it, and also grateful we got over this kind of hump of this trip, because it was a lot on paper. It was a lot. I remember
Quite
on paper
daunting.
being like, wow, some of this is tight, and a lot of different flights and the gear. It's
4
always
different countries.
The gear.
And it's heavy. We have to carry on. Each of us have our own personal carry-on, then his carry-on of like
It's basically the maximum you can take
electronics.
for weight in Europe.
It's whew.
Yeah, it's a pain.
But I feel very blessed.
All for the music.
All of
all
you,
in
but
service to the
who you
music.
are and East Forest in the world takes us to all these wonderful places. I'm so
very
grateful.
I'm very grateful.
So grateful to all the fans too. All of
we
you
couldn't
that are
show up
listening.
if people didn't show up. That's the reason we're there. So thank you. We do look forward to coming back. We don't know when that would be or how, but I know, God willing, there could be a way.
We leave again in a couple days to go to North Carolina for the Ramdas
Retreat.
summer retreat.
Yeah, this will come out after that.
Okay.
So, but looking forward to connecting with that community.
And then the Altered States retreat that we were invited to be a part
That's
of at
new.
Esalen.
Yeah. So both Esalen retreats are now open.
Yeah.
There's one September 4th through 8th.
Yep. That's Altered States, Pathways to Transformation, I think.
And that's not just our retreat. That's like us and other
Lucia,
facilitators.
who's like a 5 rhythms woman, and Shravana, I'm pretty sure her name is. She's a tantric yogini master, and Sochil Ashe, plant medicine, 5th generation plant medicine woman, and then ourselves. And it's about not just psychedelics as altered states, but all these other modalities in history and discipline of.
Yeah. And big thing for me is I am hoping the goal is on Thursday of that,
The 7th.
to do an outdoor on the big Esalen lawn on the cliff over the ocean, a sunset into the evening ceremony concert.
That's been a dream of yours.
It has. Since
Big dream.
way back. And they've never been able to green light it. And so I was like, all right, if you want to do this, this is what we need to do. And they graciously were doing it.
So you can come up and then get a day pass and join just for that day.
Yeah, which is not something that I know has been done much either.
No, that's new. Yeah, or be there all week with us. Monday through Friday, we'll be there. I'll be teaching a couple practices. We'll be on a couple panels. You'll lead a couple practices outside of the ceremony concert. And then everybody else, it's really cool.
Yeah, so that's really soon. Really soon. And then if you want to check out December 14th through 18th, 15th through 18th is our weekend retreat called Journey Space, and that's the one we've been exploring for several years, and I think it's a little over half full, maybe 2/3. So if you want to grab a spot, this is the time to do it.
Yeah. Yep.
And there might be even more.
While we were away too, on August 9th, the release of So What?
Yeah, which was the last. Put a podcast out about that, but yes, let's end with that. Of course, the song with Duncan Trussell, the 3rd single off the Music for the Deck of the Titanic album, came out, an amazing video. And way back, probably over a year ago, maybe.
A year and a half.
I texted Duncan and I said, hey, how about we record a podcast from my podcast together? You rant, art delights, I will sample it. And he just said, let's do it. And we did it. And I hope you've heard that podcast. It's great. I made the song, and then he never would respond when I was like, hey, here's the mix. Or then I was like, here's the final master. So we're going to release it. We even had dinner with him, as we've mentioned.
Crickets.
Yeah.
Yeah, went to dinner and
Austin.
asked him about it again. He said, I haven't listened to it and I won't listen to it.
No, he said, but I will. So we thought we would close it out at this dinner. We're like, well, we'll just talk about it, and I'll get permission. And at the end of the dinner, like as we're leaving, he says, no, I will definitely listen to it. I will listen to it, man. No problem. And I'm like, okay, fine. He'll
So that
listen
was
to
back
it.
in November. This is
Never
mid-August.
listened to it. Never
Haven't
listened to
heard
it.
from him since then. And you've reached out to say, hey, What do you think? Nothing. No response.
Like nothing, which then it got like to be a bit of a problem because I didn't want it to be a thing between us. I was like, look, man, I never meant to cause a problem here. I thought we were all on board. And so eventually I just dropped it. But I thought like, well, I told him I'm putting it out. I told him the date, even though there's no response.
I messaged his assistant
No
with
response.
all the, things about it. Here it is. Here's the
We made a video. Had a record label, Bright Antenna. We're like, we're doing this. We're doing it. And we did it. And it came out and I still didn't hear anything. And I just thought like, well,
What went through your head?
I just thought, look, there is a chance if he wants me to take it down or something, and we will, of course. But I also felt like he did say, do whatever you want with this. And he has been informed. And it's good.
It's very
good. And I think it puts him in a great light and it's well done. So I thought that was the biggest thing. I'm like, it's good.
Were your feelings hurt? Did you feel a little sad?
Well, I was concerned, as I said. It's like, because I also thought it kind of screwed up our flow of our friendship that was nascent and from afar. Is where in the past, if I text him within a few days, I'd get a text back. That used to be just like, yes, or whatever. I get responses. And not getting a response made me feel like there was now something between us that was never meant to be that. It was meant to just be a fun, let's create something. So anyway, it was released and a few days later or a week.
It was released on August 9th and out of the blue on August 16th.
I'm sitting there editing with Rachel in London and my phone starts ringing, which is, nobody calls me anyway. And and it looked down, it says Duncan Trussell. And I'm like, he's never called me. And I'm thinking, the first thought that went through my head is, oh no, like this could be bad. Like he must be calling because he's like, we got to talk. And I reach for the phone and it stops. And then I'm like, it's even worse. I'm like, was it a butt dial? Or did he mean to call me? Is he going to call me back? Because if I text him, he's not going to respond. And I'm just like, oh man, this is even worse now. Like, what do I do? Like a couple minutes later, he calls again. And I'm like, all right, I got to pick this up.
Quickly.
So I pick it up and I do the whole like, hey, Duncan. And he goes, I think he said, hey, man, I finally listened to it. It's great. And we had a wonderful short conversation about how happy he was and how he felt bad. And he's like, he just honestly feels self-conscious listening to himself, which I know sounds ironic, given that's his job, is talking and recording himself, but he actually doesn't want to hear it. Like
that's what he said.
Any of his stuff.
Yeah, that's what he said at dinner too, is I don't listen to anything of mine.
But I thought, well, you must listen to some, or you'll have someone listen to it in some kind of process.
Well, he told you again, sorry, because I don't listen to any of my things.
But he gave the thumbs up, and I was so relieved and so happy. It's like we finally put a little cap on that and put it away.
Oof.
So that happened.
Grateful for that closure.
Yeah.
It is really good.
Yeah.
It's really, really good.
Yeah, I think it's fun. If you haven't heard it, go hear it. Go see the video too on YouTube.
What?
It's David Lopes's video. It's really cool. All right, I think we should close it out. It's been a little over an hour, and by the time this comes out, we might have new tour dates on the West Coast, potentially with a band or not. But I'll talk about that on the intro if it's happening, because that's a big deal, and I could tell you more. It's just something.
Yeah, if you listen to a few podcasts back about his whole thing about slowing down and doing less, that's not happening.
Not happened.
Not happening at all.
We've wanted it to happen.
Yeah, had really clear intentions.
Added things into the calendar.
It's gotten worse.
But kicking and screaming. I've been like, no, and then everyone's like, but you need to do that thing.
Yes.
So there might be a band tour on the West Coast of the United States as step one. And I won't know for a few days if that's happening. But by the time this comes out, we will. So I'll let you know, of course. You probably are like, yes, we know. You already talked about it in the intro or not. So stop talking about it.
Okay.
But hope to see y'all out there. Hope you're having a good time moving into September. And thanks, Radha, as always, for joining into the space.
My pleasure.
All right. Anything else you're excited about you want to mention?
No, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, thanks everybody for listening.
What about your Costa Rica thing? Can people join last minute?
Nah, I'm done with that. I'm done taking. You missed your opportunity. I'm closing it. It's gonna be
She's doing a yoga retreat in Costa Rica.
There's gonna be 35 of us now. That's plenty. 36.
Wow. Are you serious? Mm-hmm. Jeez. Well, go to marissaradawepner.com if you'd like to see about things she's doing in the future. And I will not be in Costa Rica with her, but it's going to be amazing.
It will be very special.
Yeah. All right. Keep walking that walk. Don't take any shit, but if you do,
do it with grace.
Peace. Well, thank you, Radha, for taking the time, as always, and being so gracious. Definitely check out her world down there in the show notes for her life coaching, for her yoga work, for her ketamine therapy here in Boise, and reach out. She's sort of a wizard of well-being if you'd like to potentially work with her. If she has the time, she's quite in demand, which I can certainly understand. I'm so lucky to be able to have her by my side and do what we do together. This song that you're hearing in the background is called Cosmic Dance, and it is from Music for the Deck of the Titanic. It features Marieme. We are playing in Los Angeles on November 7th, and you can get a ticket at eastforest.org/tour. And thanks again to everyone on our Patreon, patreon.com/eastforest. And that is a great way to support this evergreen podcast. Feel free to go back in time and listen to any episode we've done. What is it now? Almost 260 or, well, more than that. And all of them are still relevant. So it's a great resource and a great library of conversations and energy. We'll see some of you at Esalen September 4th through 8th. If you're in Japan, September 30th through the 2nd, just announced a date in Tokyo. And of course, LA on November 7th. And then back at Esalen December 15th through 18th. And more to come. Keep walking your walk, friends. Don't take any shit, but if you do, do it with grace.